Hey, everybody, welcome to the Master Passive Income Show. My name is Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you get financial independence, quit that JOB, that just over broke job, by investing in real estate. And today, I'm super pumped to have literally a fantastic real estate investor who's been doing it for a long time, but also an amazing podcaster as well. Been podcasting longer than I have, which is so fun to talk to fellow podcasters. But above all, an amazing real estate investor. And helps a lot of other people to invest in real estate. And she has the Cash Flow Savvy powered by the Epic Real Estate. And their podcast is amazing too. So definitely check that out. But what we're going to be talking about today is a little bit about my guest, but at the same time, how we as expert real estate investors are investing, how we are helping our students to invest, as well as what pitfalls and what to watch out for, because there's a lot of stuff going on right now in the economy, but there's always great deals, and we are investors. We keep buying. I am so pumped to have a fantastic guest on, an amazing real estate investor, Mercedes Torres, on the show. Mercedes, thank you so much for being here on the show with me.
Dustin, thank you for having me. Wow, quite the introduction. Now I have to fill in those shoes. Thank you.
I have no doubt. Absolutely. You're going to do, you are professional, meaning you've done this many, many times and you're expert at it. And the biggest thing, you and I have talked a number of times now, and getting to know each other is so much fun because number one, we love real estate. We love serving people. Number two, but number three, we love to talk, and it's so great. So, well, first, I want people. You have Cash Flow Savvy, you have the Epic Real Estate. You have so many things that you do on top of your real estate investing. But let's get to know you just a little bit before we dive into some really good stuff about how people can learn from our experience and our what we're seeing in the market. But tell us about you and how you got into real estate investing and what you're currently doing in your business.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. About me, first and foremost, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I serve God, and I am lucky enough to be a real estate investor. And like many of us, Justin, I fell into it by accident. I grew up really poor. I went to law school, first year of law school. I hated it. So I dropped out. And when I dropped out, having a full ride, I had to find a job real quick to tell my parents that I dropped out of a full scholarship at law school. So I ended up working for mortgage banking, and really, thank God, God knows what he's doing, because I was put into a job where I'm bilingual. So I was able to help a lot of the Latin community. And I started from the way bottom. And I ended up working in the subprime industry back in the day. Remember that? So I was the girl doing the NAGAM loans, the option arms, and I realized I was doing a disservice to people. But what I learned during that time is, okay, if I'm providing a loan for a teacher, for a babysitter, for a mechanic, and they're buying houses, pulling money out from that house just 6 months later and buying an investment property, why can't I do it? So at that time, I was a W-2 employee. I saw the writing on the wall. I bought my first rental, owner occupied, put lipstick on a pig. I sold it. Mind you, at the time, my salary was $30,000 a year. Woohoo! My first flip, I made $86,217. And I got hooked because I grew up poor. And this was my opportunity to get my family out of the rut that they were in. And I just knew that it was up to me and the ball was in my court. So I started to learn a little bit more. I was in California, and then I read the infamous book of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And that just really put me on the track of, I need my money to work for me rather than me working from my money. But I was in California. California, you cannot cash flow if your life depends on it. So I knew there were markets in middle America where the purchase price and the rent ratio were going to give you a double-digit return. By that time, I met Matt. He was wholesaling. He came from really nothing. He was in the music industry. He had lost everything to the digital download and had to bag groceries at the age of 36. So that's kind of when we came together, met, we became educated on how to become a real estate investor. And we created an algorithm back in the day that taught people, or that pulled information from government census, so that I knew what markets in middle America were going to cash flow. So I was just looking for the rent ratio versus the purchase price to give me a double-digit return. I then figured out, okay, those markets are not on the West Coast, not in California, Midwest and the South. So I went out there and started creating teams. And before I knew it, I was still living in California. I'd come back, and then the RIA groups were like, Mercedes, how are you investing in Danville, Illinois, or in Memphis, Tennessee when you're living in California? So I started speaking at RIA groups. This is 2008, 2009, when the market went upside down. By 2010, we were speaking in a bunch of RIA groups. And I thought, why don't we just teach people how to do this? So that's when Epic Real Estate was born, where we started to teach people step-by-step process of how to do this yourself. And then people went through the course. They were mostly busy professionals, so they didn't have time to do it themselves. So they'd call our office, which back in the day, Dustin, was my cell phone. And they'd say, can we just buy one of your properties? And I was like, oh my gosh, well, I didn't have the whole operation laid out. By that time, I had about 20 rentals. And I was like, okay, I'll sell you a property. First month, I sold 2. The next month, I sold 4. The month after that, Matt sold 6, all because we were talking on the podcast, teaching people how to do it. And that's when Cash Flow Savvy was born. So I'm an accidental entrepreneur, real estate investor, but to the height of our career, we had 138 properties at our height, and it's been a marvelous ride.
It sounds like because all of us real estate investors, we have an arc in our trajectory of what we're doing. And as we are starting to buy property after property, we figure out what really works for us. So I'll give you a quick example. So I started with residential. I love residential. It's so simple. 4 units and below. It's very, very simple and cash flowing. That's what I love. But then I started getting into syndications, investing in other things like hotels and just bigger things and other businesses. And then I realized that as I continue to invest in other things, which is good when I want to park my money somewhere, but the best return for my money is my residential. Like, it's my bread and butter. I do it in my sleep. Like, I've literally done so many times myself, but then also coached hundreds, if not thousands of people now how to do it, that it's so simple. People say, well, it's not that sexy. I'm like, like a multifamily, 1,000-unit apartment complex. I'm like, yeah, I like it. There's no headache. There's no worries. I just make money every single month. I don't have to worry about life. Life is so good. But for me, what I love is now what you have also done is started coaching people and helping people and being a part of other people's lives, seeing them change in their lives. Because there was really, really fun. Just recently, I was at a personal mastermind that I put on where it's a high level mastermind. They came in, it was a summit that we had. And one gentleman started with one-on-one coaching, and then he got into the high level mastermind, and he was a teacher. He was literally just a teacher in the education space. And then he bought his first property from coaching. And within like 2 months, he has now 6 properties. And he was like, it's worked out so well because I built the business, because I did X, Y, and Z. I just followed what you did. Same thing with what you guys do at Cash Flow Savvy and Epic Real Estate. Okay. So I love where you guys are coming from with the vision of giving and helping people, because life just it's not about money. And you know that. I love that. My goal is now serving people just like you are. That's why I was super pumped to bring you on. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, because I know my audience is concerned about interest rates. They're concerned about prices still staying high. They're concerned about recession and all that sort of stuff. My perspective is every single deal is different. There's going to be deals everywhere. Sometimes it's going to be great. You have lots of deals, like in 2010, lots and lots of deals. I bought as many as I could back then, but other times there's not that many. And my belief is, well, when is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. The next best time is literally today. So there's always going to be good deals. We need to be investing today. But what are you seeing in the market right now, especially with interest rates being as high as they are? Are they coming down? Are they going to go up? What are your thoughts?
Well, listen, Dustin, nobody has a crystal ball. History repeats itself. What I will say is right now we are living in a very unique time. A couple reasons. Number one is, as we speak about our population, if we do the math, there is not enough housing for the population that's about to come. As it is right now, we have a shortage of housing. So what I always say to my clients is, listen, during COVID, there were 3 things that were allowed. 1 was, food supply, 2 was hospital, and 3 was housing. That's it. So for you to be the owner of one of the essentials of life, Why would you not want to own real estate? That's number one. Right on top of, talking about COVID, we all got super spoiled because what happened during COVID, interest rates came down to 2 to 3%, which I can guarantee with such certainty that interest rates in our lifetime will not go down to that low interest rate. Mathematically impossible with what the world is doing, what inflation is doing, where our finances are, where banking is, yada, 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 a little bit more second level of a conversation, but we are never going to see interest rates in our lifetime at 2 to 3%. I said to my husband, I will give my firstborn to vow for that statement. So there's that. Here's the other thing is we got so spoiled. People right now are freaking out because interest rates are at a 7%, 6.5%, maybe 7.5%, sometimes even cutting 8%, depending on where your credit score is, the details. Outside of that, when I started investing, Dustin, interest rates were at a 13%. So what's going to happen is interest rates are probably going to keep climbing. It's mathematically impossible for them not to. So if you buy a property today, let's just say worst case scenario, you're at a rate of 7.99. In 4 years, you're probably going to wish that you bought a property or 5 with an interest rate of 7.99 when the interest rates potentially could be at a 9.5%, 10%. And so here's what I say. When you lock in a property at an interest rate, 30-year fix, you're locking in security, hedge against inflation, because if the interest rates go up, hell, you're at a 7.99, keep it, be happy about it. What's going to happen is over time, your rents are increasing, so that means your cash flow is increasing. Let's just say, by the luck of the good Lord, that the rates drop. If they drop to a 5% and you're at an 8%, so you refinance. How is it wrong to start an investment property with a lower cash flow if next year that cash flow is going to increase when you increase the rent? So I rant about this on my podcast because I tell, when people say to me, interest rates are too high, I'm not going to buy. Yes, too high relative to what? So, and it's just a matter of, it's our job, Dustin, to educate people, which is why we're having this conversation, because yes, interest rates are higher than they were when we were in COVID, but they're probably not ever going to get down to that rate again in our lifetime. So
I 100% agree with you on that. And one thing I will add too, and what I'm seeing because people get concerned about, my goodness, rents, if there's a recession, if there's a big problem, won't rents go down? I'm like, no, they really won't go down. We saw it back in 2020 with COVID, like rents just shot up. But here's another thing you brought up at the very beginning with housing. And here's an interesting, I want to say statistic, just like a fact, that I can't remember which city we were looking at, but I was at the same, my mastermind where I put on, we were talking about the inventory levels. Realtors love talking about inventory. Oh, inventory. I get it. It helps a little bit to us to understand what's going on. But as investors, we don't necessarily look at inventory. It's just another factor that we look at. But here's a really interesting thing. In one city, I want to say it might have been like Atlanta or something like that. We were looking, there were 14,000 Airbnb short-term properties that were on the market. 14,000. Now, when you think about long-term tenants, they don't stay in short term. They need long term. That's a reason why there were so few properties, just like Phoenix. Oh my goodness, there's so many Airbnbs all over the place. Now, here's what's happening. You're getting a huge glut of actual supply of all these properties out there. And for long term, the supply is getting lower and lower and lower because people are thinking, oh my goodness, I watched this TikTok star. They bought 2 properties and they're making $10,000. So I'm going to just start doing that. Well, yeah, until we have bad times, then that's going to be really bad for you. But what happens is those properties are taken off the market. Rents go up because there's fewer long-term properties. And so in general, what I'm seeing, rents will always go up. In fact, I love this saying, you do not wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and then wait, because over time prices go up, rents go up, your cash flow, your depreciation, like the amount of money that you get off on your taxes, equity, like everything is beneficial if you own it right now. But if you don't own it, you're out of luck. But I fully agree with you. I really doubt interest rates are going to go anywhere near 4 or 5%, maybe even 6%. I doubt it'll get down. The Federal Reserve even told us this. They literally said, we want to break the back of the real estate market. It's like, what? You admit that? Wow. Oh my goodness. That means everybody, if you're listening, it's going to be a great time. Right now, it's still a great time to invest because there's deals everywhere. You just need to make sure you buy them, the right deals that are going to make you cash flow. But at the same time, it's going to come. This is going to be the best time ever to invest in real estate. So what else with interest rates? Now, on my perspective is that with interest rates, I don't care what the interest rate is because I don't pay the interest. I don't pay my taxes. I don't pay my insurance. I don't pay for my property manager. My tenants pay for all of that. But what is your perspective on the interest rates and how can we potentially use that for our advantage as a real estate investor?
So great question, Dustin. I mean, what I can speak to is when people buy a property, they often buy it because there's an ulterior motive. And the ulterior motive is usually a good one. They're trying to create wealth, or they want to put money away for their kids' education, or there's a wedding coming soon that, you know, they're planning for because it's 10 years away, that stuff. When people look at buying and holding a property, there's more than just cash flow. Now, of course, the interest rate affects the cash flow, but it's all about buying the property right. So if you buy the property right from the onset, even if you just cash flow $100 a month this year, which barely supports my Starbucks habit, but in 1 year, that same $100 a month, Dustin, I'm seeing it becomes $300 a month because you increase the rents and now you start to get return on equity. Because no matter what, your property generally will appreciate, okay? So that's appreciation that works in your favor without you doing a darn thing other than owning the asset and sitting on it. So that's cash flow, that's appreciation, despite the fact that the interest rate is high. Here's where you get the benefit. You mentioned it yourself. Your tenant is paying for absolutely everything. They're paying for the taxes, they're paying for your mortgage, they're paying for insurance. But in addition to that, you're also getting tax benefits at the end of the year. You can write off on a rental 27 and a half years of the actual value of the land, not the asset, but the land. And that is a tax deduction. So let's just say for whatever reason, you know, you're a W-2 employee, and at the end of the year, you would have paid $20,000 in taxes. I'm just throwing out a figure. If you have that deduction of depreciation, you literally will get $4,000 back. Now, I'm just using a figure based off of my real estate portfolio and what we usually sell, but the median number is between $4,000 and $6,000. I'm lowballing it. So that $20,000 that you paid to Uncle Sam is now all of a sudden $16,000. Now, if you do enough of those a year, over time, you all of a sudden get money back because you've washed out that $20,000 and now Uncle Sam is paying you. So it's just a matter of, really, in my eyes, who cares what the interest rate is doing if you can lock it in for 30 years and you're cash flowing just a little bit at the beginning, benefit from everything else and focus on that for the first year and a half. The cash flow will grow over time, I promise you. So,
absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree with that. Now tell me, what areas of the country are you finding are good right now for deals? Because my students are still getting deals. In fact, I have a lot of people saying, well, Dustin, the prices are so high, interest rates are so high, it's hard to make cash flow. I'm like, yeah, I completely understand that. But at the same time, there are great areas of the country and there are great properties as well. Like you never know if somebody is distressed and they need out of a property. They might need you to come in. You're going to buy it for what's going to fit you, and it might fit them perfectly. And they'll say, you know what, go ahead and take it, which my students are getting that all the time. In fact, one of my students, one-on-one coaching students, literally just got I think total of like 4 properties, like back to back, like within maybe a month. Like he was putting in lots of offers. They came in, he found a good private investor to help with him, and he's taking them all down. So what areas of the country are you finding as being great areas to invest in?
Yeah. So golden nugget. So write this down, people. I'm really big on stable, solid markets that cash flow. So remember, I created this algorithm that produces purchase price versus rent ratio. Having said that, I'm in 10 markets, but 5 of them are really strong right now. Birmingham, Alabama, St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Indianapolis, so Indiana, Indianapolis, and Little Rock, Arkansas. Those are my hot markets. And when I mean hot, I'm not talking you're going to get a 10% cash on cash return. I mean hot where they're cash flowing, stable, and they are performing. Now, the number one thing to get your properties to perform, hands down, is the team on the ground. Our property management team in those markets are on point. I not only have one team per market, I sometimes even have up to 4 teams per market. I'm huge on diversification. So I diversify everything under the sun. A smart investor should always diversify not only their properties, but management, assistants like contractors, appraisers, everything. So I work really hard at looking for markets that are stable. So the growth isn't like California market where you appreciate, 12% per year, but it's a stable appreciation, a stable increase in rent, stable job market, stable everything. And at the end of the day, Dustin, that's what you're investing for to create that wealth, that stability for your family.
Yeah. What criteria would you say is, because I love the markets that you just shared. That's literally where my students are investing. It's like, hey, I'm glad that it's like we have a fishing pond, a couple of them, and we know exactly where the good fishing spots are. So I love it. Now, what criteria though in those are you looking for? I personally love having 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square feet, just like a cookie cutter type home. Everybody either wants to rent it or buy it. Like I love just very, very great properties just like that. But what criteria now? Is it the type of home, like size wise? Is it how much cash flow, or are you capturing equity, which most likely all the above? But tell me, what do you look for in a property?
So remember this algorithm that I created in 2010 when I started? I wanted to know what middle America actually rents. And so what we know is the average family will rent 3 to 4 bedrooms, 1 to 2 bathroom, a minimum of 1,200 square feet in certain areas. So I am not in A neighborhood, so to speak. I'm also not in D neighborhoods. So I'm right smack in the middle of the road. Most of my properties are B, B minus, C, if I have to use that scale. And everything that I do is 3 to 4 bedrooms, 1 to 2 baths, a minimum of 1,200 square feet. And it has to cash flow. And when I mean cash flow, I mean the returns fluctuate. I used to offer a 9% back in 2012. Now we're looking at an ROI between 4 to 5.5, maybe even 6%. Not too shabby still, but I'm more so looking for the stability of the asset. And then once you're in the asset, now we're going to start talking about appreciation that's brought on by the stability of the market.
Those are all terrific. And, it's easy to think for some people that might be listening, like, oh man, I can get a return. Like maybe I should buy stocks instead, which don't get me wrong, stocks are fine. Mutual funds are fine. I'm not saying they're wrong. But if you look at, I love how real estate moves so slow. I could see it coming a mile away. It's like if you're at a boxing match and somebody's moving at like a snail pace and you can just watch it. Oh, I could just move out of that way. But stocks, like right now, it's looking not so good. Like literally today, it's not looking good for stocks. This last couple of weeks, I've been shorting the market for a good maybe 3 months now. And it's really started to come in. One big company, Google, obviously most people, everybody knows of Google, they're crashing. This is bad. Like they lost 10%. And it's like trillions of dollars a company. It lost 10% in literally a day. And NVIDIA, another $1 trillion company, they are dropping 20% a day. It's amazing how stocks move so fast and could go up. Don't get me wrong, but people can lose really badly. But I love how real estate moves so slow, but it's predictable. What I love is having a business where I own the business. I make sure that it's cash flowing, which I love cash flow. That's why I created Master Passive Income. I just want to not do anything, have my property work for me and me make the money. And what I love about having the real estate is as you are building up the business, all you got to do is scale the business. Now, I know how to scale, but I want to hear how you suggest that we should scale it. So we built a business, like we have the right people in place. We need to scale the business. What are your suggestions to scale a business?
Well, what I kind of tell all of my investors is start small. And, I have no problem with starting small. And some people want to, when I ask people, what are your goals? Oh, I want to own 20 rentals in 1 year. I mean, unless you're doing this full time and you have either a, awesome mentor by your side and deep pockets, you probably aren't going to get to 20 rentals in 1 year just off the bat. It took me about 2.5 years to do this. I was doing it full time and I had awesome support. And I asked a lot of questions. But the first thing that I usually tell my clients is you really need to understand, number one, your goal. You need to have a clear vision of what the goal is. Like, why are you doing it? And yes, at the end of the day, it's money, but there's a bigger reason behind that money. Is it because you need more time? You want to take care of your aging parents? The kids are going to college? Like, really dig into that why. And then once we understand that, fully understand your buying power. And like right now, you literally can go to a bank, drop 20% on an investment property. And if a property is $100,000, you only need $20,000. Now, I say the word only, and that's relative because you can have $20,000 sitting in a 401k that's not really performing for you, or in an IRA that's not doing anything for you. So consider putting that to work. So you start with one property. My rule of thumb is if you're starting slow, one property a year. If you're full-time something else, that will do it. One property a year. In 2 years, it'll be 2 properties. In 3 years, you'll have 3 properties. And that's going to snowball. Now, if you are lucky enough to either want to start doing this yourself, where they like perhaps want to be coached by you, Dustin, or they want to do something on a grander scale, will they bring in a family member? We can start to multiply it. Usually by year 3, and this may be a long time for people, we can get our students there in 1 year, but usually by year 3, I start to talk about scaling within itself. I'm a huge fan of portfolio loans. And what that means is if you're buying 3 properties on your own, maybe you get to 4. You now all of a sudden, with my rule of buying 1 property a year, in 4 years, you'll have 4 properties. You can take those 4 properties and then you can go out and get an investment loan or a portfolio loan where you can take the 4 properties from your personal name, put them into an LLC that you've created. Now we have a portfolio, and now you can borrow against the projected income of that portfolio. So what happens there? 4 properties are now 1 portfolio. You draw money from that portfolio, cash out, refinance, take that money, and you're able to likely buy 4 more. And that's how you scale. So you can do it as fast as you want to go or as slow as you want to go. And it's decided by your motivation. But that's why you and I are here, Dustin, to guide people through that, because I wish someone told me that when I first started. Nobody told me that. I had to figure it out by asking a lot of questions, but you can accelerate that. Can I share a really cool story with you, Dustin?
Please do.
The day before yesterday, I got a call from a student of mine that I've been working with for 4 years. You'll hear her on my podcast because she literally brought me to tears. I talk about it and I get all choked up. So when I first met her in Los Angeles, she asked me to lunch and we went to lunch and she was scared of doing this. She bought her very first property in Alabama 4 years ago. She came with her business partner, which was a coworker. They both work for the city in Los Angeles. They came in, we went to lunch. I shared exactly what I'm sharing right now. And I'm like, you can do this. They were very skeptical. They're my 1%ers because they actually flew to Alabama to go see their asset, which Dustin, none of my clients do that. But I was
Same
like,
here.
Okay.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my team on the ground took them in, whatever. She just came into my office the day before yesterday to tell me that after 4 years, she is retiring. She is 36 years old.
That's
she has
amazing.
70 properties to her name. Her name is Yin, and she is literally retiring after just 4 years. All she did, Dustin, was She did exactly what I told her to do, and she did it. Yeah.
I
So
absolutely love it.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I absolutely love it. But also, I love how you have it. It's not like those. I'm not. It's going to sound really harsh on the Instagram stars and TikTok stars that say scale it, get big, get millions and millions of dollars in debt, and like they're just like big, 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 big. I never resonated with people like that, like the people that were driving fancy cars and flying in jets. I'm like, well, that just seems way out of touch for me, and so I never resonated with that. And so when I started, helping people, I just was like, hey, this is just me. I'm just going to tell you what I did, and then you could, see if you want. So what's great though is you lead with that. I love that. I was like, man, this is exactly what people need to hear. They want to hear, oh, big, be a billionaire in like 2 years. Like, no, that's going to take a little longer. And if you're going to do it right, you need to do it differently. But at the same time, what I love, and you shared, okay, this is a tried and true way to do this, buying one property at a time at a year, which is great. But there's also, if you also wanted to become let's say a student of somebody, you want to start working with somebody who's actually done it before, I've literally lost tens of thousands of dollars doing it wrong. But then I teach all my students, just like you, like we show this was a wrong way to do it, or even better, this is the right way. Let me make everything fast track for you, which is so much better because in the end, they are going to make their timeline go from like, let's say 10 years down to 5, 4, 3, 2, however long it is, which is such an amazing accomplishment for the student. But I know you and I are cut from the same cloth. I feel so fulfilled. Now, I felt accomplishments when I bought my properties, when I quit my job, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I feel fulfilled when I see my students buy their first property, when they quit their job, when they attain their goal, whatever it is. That's when I feel fulfilled, because it's like I helped another human being attain what they wanted. It is such a blessing, and it's a blessing to be a part of that process. Tell me about your experience with helping so many people. I mean, your podcast has been around for 13 years now, and you're helping so many people. And for me, it lightens me up. It makes me so happy. That's why I created the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, because I just want to help more people. My goal is to help 1 million people to invest in real estate. And so every iteration of what I do is centered around that. But tell me about how you have been able to now become more fulfilled in life just by serving other people.
What an amazing thing that you're doing, Dustin. And I'm so honored to be a part of it. Life is bigger than just me. And like our world would be nothing if we didn't have people around us that made this place what it is. And so what a disservice we'd be doing if we just do this for ourselves and not share it. And I think Dustin, one of the reasons like we're so successful is because we're not selfish. Like, you call my office, I'll help you. And, there are different levels of help, but the writing is on the wall. Like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. Just copy it, copy what we're doing. And, at our point, we're very, very lucky in that we have a very nice lifestyle, a comfortable lifestyle. And I just want to share it with others because it feels really, really good to not have to worry about paying the rent or putting food on the table. I've been there before. I know what it's like watching my mom not being able to pay the rent and having to call the landlord to say, I can't pay the rent. And I don't ever want to feel that, nor do I want anybody to feel that. That's not good. And all I have to do is teach you what I've done, and you get to do that too. Why not? And I just feel so happy when our students actually put what I've done to work, because it works. And so, yeah, the world would be a much better place if we all had this mentality. Dustin, you mentioned about, the fancy cars and the beautiful homes and the trips and all of that. Somebody on Instagram made a comment that, Matt and I aren't successful because we don't post our cars or our homes or our whatever. And I really thought about it. And I thought, what does it matter if I drive a Maserati or a Toyota if you're going to be able to say you're financially free? Like, I'm not doing this for me. I don't need to post my car, my houses, the jets, the planes. I'm doing this for a bigger reason, and it's just not me. So yeah, you can any fancy cars or me on a jet.
You know what? I even lead with this. So in California when I was living there. We had a decent sized house. It was great. And then we wanted to move out of California. It was getting really expensive and things were just getting rough over there. It was in 2016. And we had a rental property in Arizona. And I was like, okay. So I quit my job because I had enough properties and I moved into one of our rental properties. It's 1,250 square feet. And we moved into it. And we knew we were going to buy another house, or our plan was to buy another house. That was like 6 or 7 years ago now. And when I went to go buy another house, I just quit my job. And they're like, you just quit your job. You have this income, but it was just hard to get a loan. Anyways, fast forward a little bit, 2020 happened. Okay, let's look for buy a house. Prices started skyrocketing. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, I should buy one. Anyways, didn't, but I still live in a 1,250 square foot house. One of my rentals, we'll buy something eventually, but it's like, I could not find at the beginning when I first started investing, nobody to relate to because they were driving the fancy cars. They were, doing all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I just don't relate to that. And so more than likely there's somebody else out there that relates to that. So let me just be real and just be myself. Like I'm frugal. I literally save 90% of the money that we make because, that's to invest. I don't just, put it and hoard it, but I invest 90% of the money that I make just because I could bless my family. You have generational wealth. In fact, the Bible says that a righteous man saves and has a inheritance for his children's children. That's my goal, is just to continue to do that. I don't want to spend it all right now. It's just, I don't need to do that. But anyways, I love that you and I both have the same perspective. And it's not necessary. Like if I'm going to help you, I'm going to help you. If not, go find those other people. They're going to be great for you. They're going to be fantastic. They're going to show you all the Ferraris that they drive and all their expensive things. It's just not us. But Mercedes, we can keep going forever. You and I love to talk, as well as we're both investors and podcast owners. I love it. Everybody needs to go check out your podcast and tell us where they can find you. They obviously know the Epic Real Estate Podcast. We'll definitely check that out. But how can they reach out to you? How can they maybe if they want to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, the podcast is Epic Real Estate Investing. And to reach out to us, it's cashflowsavvy.com. That's savvy with 2 V's. Just reach out to the contact us page that goes directly to my assistant, and we will be happy to get on the phone with you and chat about creating wealth in your world.
Terrific, Mercedes. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing such great wisdom. And I look forward to having you at the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference as well. So everybody, I didn't say this at the beginning, but everybody, if you want to come hang out with Mercedes and myself, come to the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. But it's been fantastic. I'm so glad that we got connected and we are friends now. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
I absolutely loved it. You're so welcome. And I cannot wait to see you and all of your amazing investors at your amazing event. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.